What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Maindeck. It is spoiler season for Altered Set 2 Trial by Frost. I'm here joined by, of course, my Fleeting Thoughts co-host, Jordan Syverson. How's it going, Jordan?
I am doing great. I actually just got back from locals, pulled a couple fresh uniques, and yeah, enjoyed it. Been really excited all day to see what this card is.
Yes, and also your uniques were also really good. Love that. One of the things I'm most excited for in Trial by Frost is to see what all of these cards we're spoiling right now, or that are being spoiled by the other content creators in the community, are going to do in unique forms, because I think they're going to get mind-blowing, so cool. So I was still mind-blown by the uniques you told me about tonight, and this set's been out for 3 months. So Jordan, today for the viewers, we are showing you guys something that is very it really fits with where you and I live in the upper Midwest. I think it's a little more temperate in your larger city, but boy, it was cold out today where I live.
It was quite chilly today as well. I even started my car and let it run for 25 minutes, when I was leaving work, and it was still cold on the inside. I could see my breath still. So.
Yeah, and that's going to go really well today, Jordan. We're not going to delay anymore. Get ready to click that button, by the way, everyone. Jordan hasn't seen these yet, so you're going to get to experience them at the same time as him. We're going to reveal what many, I would say, women out there today were feeling like. The Snow Maiden is our spoiler for Altered Set 2 Trial by Frost. This is a Muna base character at common, which is a 4-hand cost, 4 reserve cost, 5/5/5, with, when played from hand, target opponent may exhausted resupply. Okay? So this is a classic. This is a classic Muna design, where it is a strong character, a lot like a Daughter of Yggdrasil or something, for a lower cost, but it gives the opponent a little bit of, hey, how about you take a little bit of stuff, as reparations for my big character I just played. Jordan, what are your initial thoughts on the Snow Maiden?
The things that point out to me directly is, sadly, this is not a 3-cost unit.
No.
But thinking about that, it'd probably be kind of busted if it was a 3-cost 5/5/5 that you could just keep out forever.
You're talking about the Muna effects, meditation training and stuff that are going to.
It'll be harder to anchor here because it doesn't cost 3 or less. However, a 5/5/5 body that you can start playing turn 2 is very good. I think this is better than a Daughter of Yggdrasil as far as the trade-off is concerned, specifically that part, because giving them an exhausted resupply means they're not going to be able to use it this turn, which is important because if a lot of people like having 2 cards in reserve, you giving them an exhausted is a card they can't use now, and if they already have 2 cards in reserve, they're going to have to pitch one, which means they won't get benefit from the card you're giving them anyway, versus Daughter of Yggdrasil that lets them hard draw. It means they're going to get 2 uses from the card. They could use it the turn they get it, and they don't have to discard it at the end of turn if they're at some sort of limit. So I think this card is going to be better in some regards because it's slightly more powerful stat line, and there's a potential that the benefit you're giving the enemy is not a benefit at all. But again, costing 4 is a real cost and does affect some of your other effects.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. The big thing I want to point out with this is that your opponent gets it as exhausted resupply. We're using these new keywords where we're going to start exhausting cards in the reserve. And as an exhausted resupply, I think a fair amount of time, your opponent is, as you're playing this game and you're trying to do a little better, you're usually trying to align it so that you never have more than 2 cards in your reserve at end of turn. And a lot of decks, especially the popular ones that use reserve, like various Axiom decks, or Fen and Crowbar or something in Lyra, they're already filling their reserve every single turn, and they're doing everything they can just to not go over, to not waste any value. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities to just put this down, and with Taja as a 6/6/6 for 4, that then gives them a card that they go, well, I can't play this turn, I can't use its support abilities, and at end of turn they might just pitch it anyway, and they might not have had to pitch anything before. So if that happens, there actually wasn't a drawback, right? You just you gave it wasn't even an option they had that turn. It was just something that went away eventually. And then getting to play a 5/5/5 or possibly a 6/6/6 for 4 with no drawback, not bad, right? Right? Like that's actually it's a little scary, but that's just the common. Let's talk about the rare version, Jordan. Why don't you go ahead and we'll pop this on screen for everyone. Click on the first rare version of the card, the Muna rare version. And this is where things get even juicier. Now, there's something we didn't mention in the last card, which is that it was only from hand, of course, that they got that drawback. Whereas from reserve, there was actually no drawback. Now in the rare version, we're going to a 5 reserve cost, but it's a 6/6/6 no matter where you played it from. And to add a little extra cost to that 4 now, the opponent may exhaust and resupply twice, which is such an interesting thing to me, right? Because like if 1 already wasn't going to be used, 2 also might not get used, right, Jordan? What do you think of this?
Yeah, in some matchups, that's just gonna read mill your opponent 2 cards. Because I mean, they technically get the choice as to what
Yeah.
goes, so they'll take the best 2, but it still means the pseudo draw they're getting in some cases is just gonna be a non-issue for you. And the important thing is, since they can't use it that turn, if this is like the winning turn and this is your like bomb you're dropping to shut them out, you give them no lifelines by doing it, because they will not be able to access those cards until next turn, or unless we see some stuff that lets you unexhaust things during the turn. Because as
Right.
far as I know, we haven't seen anything like that yet, but I'm assuming if there's a way to exhaust it, there's probably going to be cards that might unexhaust them.
We actually have we saw, at least I remember, one of the Icebound cards. It's an extra effect after you pop the dragon out is to ready everything in your reserve. I think it's one of the Axiom ones. So
Okay.
we are going to get a little bit of that, right? And so that's where there might be some interesting play depending on how people's decks work. And I think like different decks will get to use this potentially differently. But I want to hone in on one thing you said, which is if this is the game-winning turn, imagine you get to this point in the game where you have the 8 resources out and you're just trying to lock down the game at that point, and maybe you're Tasia, so you actually have 8 resources and you played ramp, so this is like turn 4 or something, right? Or 3 or whatever. At that point, you can just drop 2 Snow Maidens from hand for a 7/7/7 on one side with Tasia's boost, a 6/6/6 on the other, and the opponent exhausted resupplies 4 times, but it doesn't matter because if that's the game-winning play, that's great. Then you just win the game. If that's mid-game, even then it's like, well, dropping 2 at once and making them put 4 cards out. It's like it's each time you exhaust resupply more, it's like a marginally decreasing benefit. I think that the opponent gets where it's just okay, slightly more selection, slightly more selection. um,
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah. I think like at first when I saw it, it was like it's just kind of a big stat thing. But then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this is a big stat thing. Actually, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It should be cool. And depending on what will, I haven't seen it yet, but depending on what faction this is in on a faction shift, giving the opponent more resupply, there might be cards like a Nasty that will give you a benefit from letting them stuff 2 cards in.
Okay, well let's see. It's an interesting attempt at foreshadowing here. Let's see if you're right, Jordan. Let's look at the final faction shifted rare version, and this is in Ortis, actually.
Okay.
So no, I think the Anansi thing would have been really cool to see in Lyra for sure. Maybe something if you can do a wild like chaos draft at your locals where you draft set 1 and 2 together, and then you get to play Ortis and Lyra, and you can have that fun. Or potentially, Jordan, I know how much you love multiplayer, right? What if you have
Yeah.
a Lyra, teammate, and you play Muna or Ortis, and you play the Snow Maidens, and you go, okay, let's combo giving our opponents a bunch of exhausted resupply with the Anansi effects. But right now we just have the Ortis version, and now it's always a little different as to how they approach the faction shifted rare. This one is just the common version in the faction shift. So the Muna rare is definitely like the juiced up version that's way bigger. But what do you have any ideas initially about how Ortis might be able to take advantage of having the Snow Maiden, Jordan?
Outside of just the basic stuff about the card, I can't think of anything outright that would do anything crazy. I haven't seen. I mean, there's probably some more interplay with some of the new Ortis cards with the new exhausted resupply mechanic, unless there's something I'm missing. I'm not a huge Ortis player. I
Yeah.
recently played my Ortis deck that I made a couple times, just to give it a fair shake. But I don't see anything outright that's like, yo, this is going to be a crazy combo with this. But
Well,
it just being a big body that sometimes doesn't really have a downside is also good.
yeah, and the thing that the reason I think this is an Ortis is that it is an equal stat card at a at a reasonable cost, and Ortis has a number of cards in Trial by Frost that are about exhausting reserve cards. So it kind of I think fits into there. Now the thing I thought about with this in Ortis is maybe I'll just give them a card and then I'll just go ahead and sabotage it right away with my Orta Spy or something right afterwards to just put some bodies on the board, have some stats. And that's not a I think that's not a terrible idea either, depending on how it shakes out.
Yeah, that's a great point because you can also do it even if you don't do it that turn. Since it comes in exhausted, you don't have to worry about them using it. And then you're set up if you're going second when you play the Snow Maiden, you're going first the next turn, then you can sabotage it before they even have a
Mm.
chance to play it. And then they only have one card in reserve and they actually went down a card. So
One of my favorite feelings in the game is having that set up perfectly where you're going second one turn, you're like, okay, cool, I can do all this right now because I know I'm going first next turn, and then boom, sabotage that thing you played. Gotcha. Yeah, in this case, that I think that's really clever. We're just gonna have a strong kind of going second turn, and then when they're going first the next turn, just go ahead. If it flipped something useless that you don't really care about, okay, cool. I just got a free, well, not free, but I got a cheap giant stats thing. If they flip something you are afraid of, no problem. Sabotage it. It's right out of here and call it a day. So that's gonna be it. I just want to mention one more thing, Jordan. We talked about uniques right away. That was foreshadowing, in fact. I want to talk about the Muna version. We'll bring the Muna version back on screen here again. One thing that you mentioned right away was it's too bad that this isn't 3 cost, right? Now,
mm-hmm.
I don't have any unique spoilers. We don't have anything cool to show off, but boy, have we seen a lot of uniques that shift costs in different directions. And one of the uniques for the Snow Maiden I will be looking for immediately is just like Jordan said, any Snow Maidens that can go down to 3 cost, even at a slight loss of stats, I think will still be a valuable play at 3 cost for, as Jordan said, a lower benefit to the opponent and still potentially scary stats to deal with, especially in Tasia and stuff with that sort of lockdown, anchor down strategy.
100% agree. That's one thing that I also thought of is like the second you find a 3, even if it loses a little bit of stats, it might get extra abilities on top of what it has as well, which would be icing on the cake. Ace.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun. Trial by Frost releases January 31st. It'll be coming to your LGS worldwide, but before that, the week before that, actually, it'll be the week after we're posting, so we're right at the end of the spoiler season here. There will be pre-releases actually they didn't do pre-releases in set one, so this is the first set of pre-releases. Should be worldwide. If you have an LGS that's been supporting Altered and doing Adventure Pass events and everything, they should have access to getting a pre-release. Check their calendar. Go ahead and see if you can find a pre-release to attend, get your hands on some Trial by Frost, and then hit it up when it releases on the 31st, because it's going to immediately be a fascinating marketplace as everyone starts to reveal the very first uniques from Trial by Frost. What's good, what's bad, I have no idea. Good luck in all your pulls. Hope you guys get some amazing stuff. Definitely join the Maindeck Discord and share with us the uniques that you're pulling. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of the Snow Maiden. Was there something we missed? Is this card good or bad? Want to hear from you guys down there. Thank you, Jordan, for joining me today. Quick little burst of altered content for you. And we're just going to go ahead and leave it right there. Enjoy. Let's hit up some events, Jordan, real soon. I hope to see you. Actually, we got to get to an event together at some point too, don't we?
For sure, for sure. I'm excited for it.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Goodbye.